So this is how our automation would look like in NA10. This is the canvas window, and these are the 6 nodes that makes the entire automation. This first node, Google Sheets trigger, activate when a new lead comes in. So it basically watches for new submissions. If node makes sure that we only process the new lead and not the old ones. Then it sends the data to edit fields, and edit fields cleans up the data and structures it for our AI model. Then AI model takes our prompt, and this is where the magic happens actually. AI reads it and writes a personalized email. Then it sends data to our next node, which is a Gmail node. The Gmail sends the email automatically and update the Google Sheet with the status, which is sent in this case. So for this video's sake, I've created a dummy form. But before we dive into the details of how to build this automation, let's see how the final email would look like. So this is how the final email would look like. When we set the prompt in our OpenAI node, we make sure that we set the prompt in a way that it sends out a very authentic, personalized email, which is in our tone, our style. Okay, so let's start building this. So what we're going to do is, this is the canvas. I'm just going to zoom out a little bit so you can see how much space you have here. When you click on this plus sign, it will take you to a new window, which would be like an empty window. Lead. So this is where we will write our project name. Let's call this one lead follow-up automation. There you go. Okay. So now before we start, this Google Sheet needs to get data from somewhere, right? And this is where we're going to use Google Forms. We're going to use this Google Form where we have all these different questions that we're going to fill out, and then we're going to continue making this automation. And the great thing about Google Forms is that all the responses that we receive is automatically saved in a sheet. So this way you have all your data automatically saved in this sheet, and this sheet is then connected to this node, which is a Google Sheet trigger. So I'll show this in a minute. So let's go to the Google Form and let's start filling out the questionnaire. Okay, so it says, this is where I am logged in. Okay, so let's open a responder link. Okay, so this is where we're going to fill the form. Let's bring this here. And it says, okay, this is the, okay, sure. Yeah, record this. We're going to use this for now. And let's say my name is Chitakshi. And I'm just going to randomly select these points because I just want to make sure that I'm selecting as much data as possible. Go. Okay, so starting my industry, what usually stops you from posting regularly? Second guess, I guess. How do you decide if a piece of content is worth posting? I hesitate because I don't know if it's relevant enough. If you had a system that made content creation effortless, what would it look like? Okay, let's do that. It would look like a term where I have topics that okay, have you worked with the content team before? No, I haven't considered it. Or maybe yes, but I didn't really match my voice and style. Let's see how it goes. What would change in your business if you had a steady stream of content and strong credibility? Okay. And I'm going to leave this for now, and let's submit our form. Indicates, yeah, check. I am ready. Yeah, so submit my form. Okay, it's done. So let's go and see. Okay, I'm going to see if, see, so this is, I have received it. So this is data. Everything is here in our Google Sheet. And the only thing that we're going to add at the end is going to be, just going to add one more here. It's going to be, we're just going to add this field status so that the last node, which is going to be the updating node, it will update this sheet automatically in this status field. So we have this data here from Google Form. And what we're going to do next is we're going to go into our NA10 workflow, and we're going to start building our automation. Okay, just want to make sure that I tell you this. Just make sure every time when you create an automation or anything, any workflow in NA10, make sure you keep saving your changes, because for now, at least, NA10 doesn't save automatically. So you have to keep this in mind, that you have to save all your work before you move on to the next one. Okay, so this is how we're going to do it. So this is where you would find all kinds of different nodes, all kinds of different elements that you could potentially use for your future automation. So you have an AI agent where you have all these different options that you can pick from. I would recommend to go through all the options so that you understand what you're dealing with. And then whenever you are thinking about an automation, whenever you're thinking about a workflow, I would recommend to make sure that you have a clear picture of what in mind of what you want to build, and what is the final outcome that you're looking for and that you want to derive out of this workflow. It will make things a little bit easier for you to conceptualize. Okay, so this is the first one, is we want our data to come through from Google Sheets. So what we're going to do is we're going to go look for Google Sheets. So do you see this? So when you click here, you have all these different options. You can create a spreadsheet, you can delete a spreadsheet, and all these different options you have. But what we are looking for a trigger. A trigger, it means that it activates as soon as it gets a new information. In this case, we want the Google Sheet trigger to activate as soon as we get a new lead from our Google Form. So we're going to click here, and these are the 3 types of triggers that you have. You can either have a trigger set up as soon as a row is added in your Google Sheet. In this case, we are going to use this one. Or you can have a trigger which activates as soon as a new row or a row is updated. And it actually depends on the kind of outcome that you're looking for in terms of your workflow and automation. It depends totally on that. So for this one, we're going to use on row edit. And basically, I do want to mention that everything is pretty straightforward, described in a very sophisticated language. So it's not that complex to understand once you get a sense of how this platform functions, which I'm sure after this video, you would be able to crush your automation soon. Okay, so this is how any node would look like in NA10. So you have on the left side, you have an input window, which is empty right now because once we fill out these forms, you would see a prompt here which would say execute node or fetch data, like this, it's mentioned here, right? Fetch test event. So this is where the input goes, and this is the middle section is where you have all the parameters. This is where you make everything happen. And you also have an output window where you can see what you're building on the side. So you don't have to create the entire workflow first. With each node, with each parameter, you can test if it's working for you or it's not working for you. And that's where this output window will be super helpful for you. So for this Google Sheets trigger, what we're going to do is we're going to set up our credentials account. So you go here, and it's fairly simple. I have already connected my Google Sheets for now. So what you would do is you click on create new credential. You go here, it will ask you to sign in with your Google account. So once you click here, sign in, it will take you to a new window. You give permissions, you sign in, and you have your Google account connected. Since mine is already connected, so I'm just going to go right away and select my account. So I'm going to use this one. And the next one is pool times. You can set a limit of how often do you want this trigger to extract it from your sheets. It can be every minute, it can be every hour, every day, every week. For this video, we're going to do every minute because we want to see instant data. Let's set this up for every minute. And you can also set up like a custom data, which might be helpful if you have a very specific day or very specific time that you want a trigger to pull data from your forms. Okay? So we have set it for every minute for now. And so you can delete any node if you want to from here, but I would recommend to delete only the ones that you add on top for at least for the initial stage till you get a hang of things of how it works in any day. Okay, so let's move on. So the second thing that we have to set up is the document needs to know where to extract the data from. So in this case, we're going to do from list, but you have by URL, by ID. If you have a specific URL that you want to give it to, let's say, for example, if it's a contact form on your landing page, you can give a URL here. So you select it, you can enter your URL here by ID. I haven't used it yet, and I haven't seen any example where this would be required. So we're going to go from list, and it will give you all your forms. This is the sheet that we're using from. So for example, in your sheet, I have form responses 1. If you have multiple sheets here, so you can select each sheet and which sheet you would want this trigger to extract data from. Now, you really need to focus on this one. So this one is triggered on. So when do you want a trigger to happen? And this will decide what data you are extracting from your Google Sheet. So we're going to do row added, and then we'll click on add options because we need to tell it which row is going to be added, right? So we need a very specific row. We need any lead that comes in after the previous lead, right? A new lead. So what we're going to do is we're going to select data location on sheet. You have venue render, you have date time render, which we're not going to use at this time because we don't have a specific date or time, but we do have a specific location on sheet that we want to extract data from. So we're going to select that. Now range definition. So what we're going to do is we're going to select specify range rows in this case because we have rows here, right? And so notice the first row here is the heading. It's the headers, the timestamp, email, name, and all the questions. So what we're going to do is we're going to say specify range rows. And for the header row, that's one already selected. And for first data row, the second, right? So we have the second row, which has our data. And sometimes it could be a row 5th row or 6th row or 8th row, whatever the row is where you want it to extract it after. So you select that. So we have this fetch test event here in the input section because now you have connected your Google Sheet to it. And you can add more options, but you really don't need to in this case. And you can delete anything that you don't really need. So we're going to do fetch test event, and there you go. So you have the data from your Google Sheet, and you can pin this out, but we don't. Okay, we're not going to do that. Okay, so you have here all the rows and all the data that you have in your, so you have to save every time. It gave you all the data that you needed. Test events. Yep. Okay. So this is sorted. So this is the output window. This is the input window. And this is where you set all the settings. And here, usually you don't need to change anything in this section, in the settings section, because it's more for technical users, which we don't need to change anything because this is set to perfect for now. So let's move on to the next one. So I'm going to put this here. Let's make it free. So the second node that we want is we have all the data, right? We have the timestamp, email address, name, and all the questions. And in the future, we might have second lead come in. We might have third lead come in. We might have fourth lead come in, right? So for that, we're going to add an if node, and it will ensure that we only process the new lead and not the old ones. There you go. So what we're going to do is we're going to look for if, and you will get a sense of which node to use, or honestly, you can ask Claude, ChatGPT, any LLM that you have in your tech stack. You can use it and you can ask questions wherever you feel like you want to understand a specific data set, a specific task at hand. So all these are actually pretty basic. So the basic ones are you want Google Sheet trigger, you want an AI to write your emails, you want this node to send an email, and these are pretty straightforward. These two, like the if node and the edit fields node, is an additional step which would come to you once you get a sense of how this platform works, what you need for it, and it just makes it easier over time to analyze which node you want to use. And so we are telling it that if you receive this data, you can send it to the next node. Okay, so now in this node, in the input field, you see you have all the data from the sheet. So you have these 3 different formats here. You have a table format, you have a JSON format, and you also have a schema format. And this is helpful because in the previous models, you had to type everything yourself because it was more designed for a developer and not. So for now, you have all these fields set up, and all you have to do is drag and drop and put it where you want. So let's go one by one, and you would understand in a minute what I'm talking about. We want to make sure when a new lead comes in, it goes through this process, and we are able to send a personalized email at the end of the day. So what we're going to do is we're going to set a limit here. We're going to set, so these are the conditions that we're going to ask it to make sure. We want it to make sure that it has an email, a name, So every time when you book in anything, it will keep helping you throughout the way to understand how it works. And the great thing, like I mentioned before, you can test things out with your free trial, and once your free trial ends, you can get a feedback. So just want to take this name field and just gonna drag and drop here. So we're saying that if name is equal to name, it's a name is equal to name. If I'm gonna write here if name exists and if email exists, executes that. Here you go. So if name and email exist in the new lead that comes in, it will make sure that it fetches that data, the new one, and it sends it over. And I don't want to add another condition here. I do want to add that if the status is empty, it should extract it, because once we set up the last node, it will automatically update a Google Sheet with the status sent, which means that this lead we have already sent an email to this lead. So the one which has an empty status column, it will extract data for that. So let's execute step, and here you go. This one remains the same because we don't have any more data here, but we can definitely test this. Let's complete the flow, and then we'll come back here and we'll test it with another response. Go, okay. So let's go to the next step and see. So now here you have two options. It says either true or false, and we are going to go with the true since it extracted the data from the Google Sheet and the current one. So let's click here. So whenever you want to add any node here, you can connect it. You can click on this plus button, and it will open the same window. And you can also connect it to different nodes. Let's say, for example, if after midway, I decided that I want to add another step in between these two steps. So all you have to do is you can do two things actually. So you can either select this plus, you click on this plus icon, and it will open up the same window, and you can add any node. Let's say, for example, let's add either here, let's say Telegram. Okay, let's add a Telegram. So let's say get a chat. So we have this here, and we want see. So it's automatically adds between two different nodes. And if you want to disconnect these two triggers, all you have to do is select on this delete, and it will disconnect it from the trigger. And similarly, if we select here, we click here, it will disconnect here. And you have these three different options here. If you want to play a particular node or particular element, then you can click here and it will start the workflow, or you can turn this on, turn this off, you can delete it, you can execute step, you can rename it, replace it, duplicate, copy. So you can do all these different things here. I'm going to delete this for now and show you a different way. So this was here when you clicked on this plus button, you were able to add a node between these two existing nodes. And the other way is when you go here, let's say, and you select let's see, what can we say? So I'm just going to cross these two first. Okay, let's go here. And let's say I want to add Asana. So you go here, select Asana. I want to create a project, right? So you have this node here. So it's hanging here. So, and if you want to connect it to the first node, all you have to do is connect it like that. You click on this orange dot, and here you go. This is how you connect it. And again, delete, delete, and delete. We don't want it. So we're going to disconnect this again. We'll bring this back here, and we're going to add our next field, which is the edits field. So see, you have all these different options here. So you can pick and you can select what you want to do. Let's say, for example, if you were working on something where you would need to extract data from Reddit, you want it to scrape Reddit, you want API or some tool like that to scrape data from Reddit and gives you a detailed summary of how a specific subreddit is working, or if you want updates from your industry. So you can use that at that time. For this video, we're going to use edit fields here. So you have two options. You can either manually map the fields. Let me connect this and let's execute previous node so you can see what we got here in the input field. So once we execute our previous node, there you go. So you have all of these different fields here. And what we're going to do is we're going to manually map what we want the next node, which is the OpenAI node. We will decide here in this step, we will decide what data we are going to give to OpenAI so that it gets filtered in and only the things that it requires and not everything from the Google Sheet. Like, for example, OpenAI doesn't need to know the timestamp. OpenAI doesn't need to know the status, I guess, in this case. So, or food for thought, because we haven't filled anything here. It's empty, right? So we don't want to give this empty field to OpenAI and confuse it in any way or form. So you have two options. You have a manual mapping where you can drag and drop and manually add whatever you want to add here and send the data to our next node, which is an OpenAI node, or you can customize if you know how to code, if you know how to add JSON fields. So you can customize each output within JSON format. So we're going to do manual mapping for this one. And so let's decide what we want to give OpenAI data about. So we definitely want OpenAI to consider the email address because it's going to use this to send the final email to this address. So it's going to just drag and drop here, and here you go. You have this set up as a string. If you notice in the previous field, we manually added these details, and here you will just have to drag and drop. So we wanted to give an email. We also wanted to give a name because in the email, we want to mention the name of the person. And we're going to add all these fields because these are the important metrics and important details, the data that we want AI to go through and personalize the email using this data, this specific data, because that's where the magic happens, right? That's the whole point of making this automation, is to send a personalized email automatically, which has all the data that this person has filled in the form. And instead of just sending a regular data, because for some reason it doesn't show the value, let's delete that. And what is your biggest? How do you come up with? Yes. Okay, now we go. We're good. So I was saying that, so that's why this automation exists, because any other automation that you have been using probably by this time, it sends an automatic email, which you set up an email beforehand and automatically goes to the person, whoever fills out the form. And it's a very generic basic email that you set at one time and you send it every time. What we are doing here is we are personalizing and customizing each email that we are sending out with the very specific data that we have received from our form, from the input form. Let's go ahead and let's add all these questions that we're gonna in here. And I do want to do one thing. I feel like the questions, the prompts, the name of each field here is a very long question. I don't want the OpenAI node to get confused analyzing the prompt. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to simplify these names for OpenAI to get a sense of what we're talking about here with each question. Let's say, for example, where do most of your clients come from? So let's write here client source. So it will get a sense of what we're talking about with each question, and it will form the answer. Social media for your business growth right now. Social media importance. How do you feel about social media as a tool to get clients? Challenges to get clients. We have here still biggest struggle. I'm not going to write 3 biggest struggle because I don't know if someone fills out just 2 or 1. Doesn't matter. We want OpenAI to just understand the biggest struggle from client's perspective. Let's go to the next question. How do you usually come up with content ideas? Current content strategy. Hey, what usually stops you from posting? Let's do this. Let's do it. Current content process. What usually stops you from posting regularly? Decide if a piece of content is worthy posting. This right here. Content decision. If you had a system that made content effortless, what would it look like? Content creation system. Have you worked with a content team before? Content team. What would change in your business if you had a steady stream of content attracting the right audience? You have, let's say here, there's a steady stream of content. Let's just leave it here. Okay, so this is set. Now we have set all these details, and let's execute the step and see what we get. So we have got our email address, we have got our name, we have got all the questions, a very specific name for all the questions, and here you go. And you can also see the answers here down below that it's extracting actually. So you would know what you are actually dragging and dropping here or adding detail. Okay, so an output is also in the same format. It is also in these 3 different formats. So you can see all the answers here as well. We have added 3 nodes successfully, and now we are ready to add our next mode, which is OpenAI node. Let's go here and let's write OpenAI. We have OpenAI here. So the reason that I'm using OpenAI here is because for 2 reasons. You can either use Claude or OpenAI, or because these 2 are actually already integrated into any 10 system, and all you have to do is you have to connect your API and never show your API to anyone or tell it to anyone. That's your private key that you use, because after you hit a certain limit, it will cost you to extract any when you hit your free limit essentially. So that's why I am using an OpenAI model, so that I can set up my API key and I can select the model that I want to use, and I make sure that I don't spend money that I don't need to. So I have this OpenAI options here. So you have messenger model, classify text for violations. You can analyze image, you can generate an image, you can edit an image, you can generate audio. You have all these file actions, you have conversation actions, and you have video action as well. So for this workflow, we're going to use messenger model because we want to send a message to a model and in return get a response from it. So we're going to select message a model. There you go. And it's connected to a previous field. So it has all the data from the edit fields output here in this node's input. And you can expand, collapse, and see you have all the data from all the previous nodes here. If you any time or any scenario, if you need data, you can get that from here. Okay, so here you go. And so I have already connected my OpenAI account and I have already put in my key, but I'll show you how the process works. And it's fairly simple. So you click on create new credential, you go here and you add your API key. I have already added my API key. I'll show you how you can get an API key, but I'm going to let this be hidden for safety reasons. And you have your base URL here, which you can copy and paste outside. But for now, all you have to do is once you go here, you go to say Open AI API. So this is the API platform. So you go here, you log in, and you log in, you go to API platform. So I'm not going to log in right now because I already have my API key. All you have to do is you log in, create a new API key, and then you can find a lot of multiple videos on YouTube how to get an API key. You get the API key, copy it, and it's only visible one time when you create it. So make sure you copy that API key and directly add it where you want to. So for now, for this video, I already have my API key, and so I've added that and hit save, and my API key is connected. And it's saying this couldn't connect with these settings because I think because it wants me to add this API key. Let me see, and let's retry. Yeah, okay. So I will use this OpenAI account. Okay, I will use this, which is I already have connected this here. So I have my API key. And the next thing is we want the resource to be a text format because we're getting input in a text format, and the output is going to be a text format as well. It's not going to be an image or audio. So let's select text, then operation. You're going to choose message a model, and we're going to ask for a response in return. So let's choose our model for this one, 4o mini. I'm going to use 4o mini and save some tokens. And then so the next is messages. We want the message to be in a text format, not an image, not a file. And then the role, we want the OpenAI to take the role of a user. And so you have user, assistant, or system. So for user, you send a message as a user and get a response from the model. As an assistant, you tell the model to adopt a specific tone or personality. So it will adopt a specific tone or personality. Let's say, for example, if you've added a file here, a document with very specific details and very specific instructions that you want OpenAI to consider before it generates a prompt. So that's where you use an assistant or system assistant or system, whenever fits into your automation. For this one, we're going to use user, and we're going to add the prompt here. So, and this is a very critical piece in this entire automation, because this is what is making it amazing, and this is the step where it all falls down, right? If you do not set a prompt in a very specific manner, then you would not get the specific result that you're looking for when you're sending an email, a personalized and customized email. It needs to be in your tone, in your language, in your style, and not feel like it's sent by an AI or a bot, right? So I'm going to use the prompt that I already have set here. I can share the prompt with you as well, so you can take that as a reference point. So I'm going to add this here. So you can actually see the extended form of this prompt in a broader window. When you click here and you see all these in this expanded version, you can see the full prompt. So in this prompt, I want OpenAI model to consider itself that it's Jitakshi, a content strategist, and someone just filled out the consultation form and write a short email, 3 short paragraphs. So if you see, I have a very set structure that I want this AI to follow in order to give me a specific result. So I have this 1, 2, 3. I have these very specific rules that I wanted to consider to match 2 to 3 sentences per paragraph, like write like you are texting, no corporate language, no summarizing everything they said. Pick one thing to focus on, not everything. Be direct. Sound excited to help, not salesy. Remove all the M dash with an N dash, because I think that's what makes it like superhuman. And add space before and after the dash, because I've noticed that OpenAI or any LLMs nowadays, when they create a content piece or a message, they have M dash and there's no space between that, and that feels to me that feels unnatural. So I wanted to make sure that it fixes that. And so I have added all the responses that I want it to consider from the Google form, so that it creates the final output, the final message basis this specific information. Now, these are all the drag and drop here. So you can see that there's this red section, which looks like an error, because it's not extracting the right name or there's something missing. So all we have to do is we're just going to delete this, and we will bring this here, because I have copied and pasted this prompt from my previous one. So a few name here and there changes might have triggered it to create an error. So we're just going to drag and drop whatever is in the error. So what blocks posting, same thing. Content decisions, which is the same. Here we go. Okay, so desired outcome. I don't have a desired outcome. I don't know, probably this one. Content team and steady stream here. Okay, and here you go. And I've also mentioned, write only the email body, start with hi name and end with my initials. So here you go. That's the final prompt, and here's the output. So you can see this is the result, but this is not the final output since we are in another extended window. So I'm just going to collapse this, come back here. We don't necessarily want to simplify outputs. I'm just going to turn this off for now. It wouldn't matter if you turn this on or off in this use case, because we have a very specific prompt here, but I'm just going to keep this off. So you don't need any built-in tools. You don't need to add any options, and you can click through all the options and just familiarize yourself with what options you have. And if you have any question regards to any of the details in these notes, you can anytime, always, you can ask ChatGPT or Claude for that matter. Take a screenshot, share with them, and ask them to explain you how this works. And this is, here you go. So I'm just going to hit on this execute step, and let's see what we get here. We should ideally, if this works well, we should get a specific result like the final email. And let's see what we got here. Looks like I am out of tokens. Okay, OpenAI, I am out of tokens. I know. Let's try this one. Failed. So that's what happens, right? So if it says that you have incorrect API key, and because this is one that I've added, and this is my previous one, and if I'm out, okay, so it worked. So it worked, executed successfully, and you see you have this email. I have this email here. Let me in the JSON format. You have this works. Have it, and here you go. So here is your text. This is your text, and these are the spaces. So this is the format that we're using. And if you notice here, it hasn't considered the dash and N dash. But let's see. Let's send the email and see how it comes out. And I'm just going to save this there. Each time we execute each step. I hope I'm not out of tokens. Okay, so perfect. So let's add fifth node, which is the Gmail node. So we write here Gmail. And anytime you want to create a workflow and automation, you can always structure your format beforehand. You can use Canva, you can use any of the notepads, anything like that, and create a structure what you want the end result to be. And then you start building and actually building it in N8N. So for this one, let's click here, Gmail. For the Gmail, you have these many options. What we want is we want to send an email. So we want to send a message. So let's see, here you go. Send a message. So we're going to send a message. We have all these fields here. Okay, it's pretty much basically the same process here. So you want to connect your Gmail account. In this case, I've already connected it. But what you can do is when you click on create new credential, same thing, you sign in with Google and you connect to your Google account, give permissions and save, and you're done. So you have it. There you go. I'm going to close this. I already have that here. So we want to send an email. We want to send a message. Not only will draft a thread in this case. And then operation, we want to send a message, an email to. So this here too, we want to send to the email, a very specific email, not the name, but the email, because that's the very critical part when we are sending an email, right? The email address. It needs to be the correct email address. So here is our email address. I need to send it to an email address. So you have this here. Now I will just add an equal to sign here. And the reason I want this to happen is I want it to very specifically use whatever email comes through the process and not any email in the sheet, or not get confused with anything else, but to use this very specific email of this very specific data set. Yes. Then we want to have a specific subject. Let's say here, thank you for filling the form, or actually excited to chat content strategy with you, and then a smiley. Okay, so we want the email type to be a text format and not a JSON format, a text format rather. And we can actually do an HTML if you know how to code, and if you want the look, the UI, the look and feel, the structure of the email in a very specific manner, then you can use HTML. But for this video, I'm just going to use text. And here is the message that I'm just going to turn all these off just to make sure that we don't get confused or pick a wrong option. Okay, there's a lot of that. Okay, so from this message, we want this output. We want the output. We want this response, the object. But also, let's make sure that here in table, where is our answer? So it's here in text format and in content, right? Let's go here. Let's see ID, content, and we have this text here. We want this text to come here. Okay, there you go. See, this is the result, right? So I think it's on expression mode, so I'm just going to do fixed. And okay, let's do this here like that. There you go. So you see the result here. This is the email that it generated for you. There you go. And it actually did take care of the M dashes. I feel like here it could have added an N dash, but it's an N dash for now. So yeah, so great. I think this worked. So I'm just so as soon as I hit execute step, we're gonna see an email sent to this email address. Okay, so let's see execute step, invalid email address. And that's why we need to add an equal to sign here, so that it makes sure that this is the exact email address that we wanted to consider. So let's see, equal to, and it executes unable to sign without access to. So okay, I think it did not, and it's sent. So I selected the wrong email account. So did you see the difference? When I did not add an equal to sign, it's gave me an error. And this is very important in this format, because with this equal to sign, what we are telling this node is that always send the message to this specific data set, which is the email address that comes through this specific process. So it's sent. Okay, let's go to our email, which is going to be my other email. There you go. Here you have the email. Here you go. Excited to chat content strategy with you, with a smiley. Hi Jitakshi, thanks for filling out the consultation form. I totally get where you're coming from about the second guessing on whether your posts are valuable. That's such a common struggle. What if you shifted your focus to sharing your unique insights instead of aiming for perfection? Sometimes just expressing your thoughts as they come can resonate more than what's trending. Want to chat about how to streamline that process? I'm here to help. Cheers, Jitakshi. Now, once you do this, you can totally customize your OpenAI, your prompt. It can be anything. You can set the rules, you can set the tone, you can set a very specific format that it needs to follow in terms of, like, for my prompt, I asked it to keep it super short, super simple, not a lot of data, not a lot of details in the email, and just make it super short and open for chat. Okay, so you can set up the specific prompt for your specific need, and it will generate, and it will be a really helpful automation for you, because every time a need comes in 2 minutes, automatically a response goes back with very specific details from the answers and from the data that they have shared with you. Instead of sending a very generic automated email, you have something personalized, something customized sent over to your potential client. So I'm just going to complete this flow with our last step, which is updating our Google Sheet. So we're going to select Google Sheets again, and this time we want to update a row in the sheet. So we're going to select that, and what we're going to do is we're going to select the Google Sheet that we already have. And then we need to select which sheet within document. So let's do sheet within a document, date row, and that's correct because that's what we have selected. So we'll let it be. And so here you will select the document where you want to update. From the list, we have this sheet. So we want to match the column or not on status because it's empty. It cannot match anything. So here we will select email address and want it to do that. Okay, let me delete this. Okay, so email address using to match is going to be this one. And then we're going to add column. We want status to be sent. Once we do that, going to execute step, and it will send the update. And when you go here in the sheet, oops, refresh the sheet. Okay, let's check again. Okay, it's done because I had already selected. That's why it didn't work. So here you see it's updated. So anytime if you get a new form here, it will automatically select extract data connect, and voila, we made an automation. So that's about it. So this is just a starting point. You can make multiple automations, you can create multiple workflows, and you can iterate them. You can test and run. And once you're happy with the final output, you can use it multiple times, and you can then go do a paid plan and just use it. I hope this helped, and I hope you create. So this is what I want you to do. I want you to copy this exact workflow yourself, make that, and send it over to me. I will share all your automations, whatever you created, in my next newsletter, next newsletter, because next one is going to be a different one. But I will definitely make sure that I share that with all the members in this community. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing some cool automation.